and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I'm going to be doing the third and final part of my New York City travel guides with kids, and this part is going to be all about Brooklyn. So you may have seen my previous two videos I did. If you haven't and you would like to watch them, I will link to them below. But my first video was all about the kind of typical tourist spots that we enjoyed in Manhattan as a family, and then the second was more about Manhattan but perhaps the lesser known spots that we also really enjoyed. And then, like I said, this video is going to be all about Brooklyn. But to give you a little bit of background into our trip, I went with my husband and my three children who are 7, 5 and 2, and we spent 4 nights in Manhattan and 3 nights in Brooklyn. And we did this because we wanted to experience the best of both worlds. We wanted to kind of have the typical tourist fun in Manhattan and the busy and the crazy, and then we also wanted to kind of relax a little bit and kind of do all the cool stuff in Brooklyn. And we're so glad we did, because Brooklyn was one of the highlights of our trip. There's so much to do there, but it's just more of a kind of relaxed, laid back, kind of go with the flow kind of vibe than it was in Manhattan, and we just really enjoyed it. So we kind of did 3 main areas in Brooklyn. We did Greenpoint, which was where we were staying, and I'll talk about that in a minute, which is more of an up and coming area. There's not as much going on up there, but it's still really cool. And then you have got Williamsburg, which is kind of like the hip cool area. There's been a lot of talk about it. There's lots been going on there over recent years. There's lots of kind of hipster cool vibe going on. There's loads of restaurants and bars and kind of cool street art, and it's just a really cool place. And then you have got the Dumbo area of Brooklyn, which stands for down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. This is where you would come in if you came from Manhattan across the Brooklyn Bridge, and there's loads going on down there too. It's a really nice place to sort of sit and chill out. There's also the piers, which I will talk about in a minute, and it's just a really cool vibe there as well. But I'm just going to get started. This is just a few of the things that we really enjoyed doing in Brooklyn as a family. After a lovely few days in Manhattan, we headed across the bridge to Brooklyn. We decided to get a taxi rather than the subway, just because trying to negotiate 3 kids, all our bags and a buggy on the subway might not be that fun. Plus, if you go by car, you get amazing views of the city on your way. And we decided to stay at a hotel called the Box House Hotel, which is in the top part of Brooklyn in an area called Greenpoint. And I did a lot of research into hotels before we travelled, and I just really liked the look of the Box House. It was really coolly done inside, and it had really amazing size rooms. We were in a suite which was 2 bedroom with a kitchen, and it was just absolutely perfect for our family size. We really love the hotel and would recommend it. The only thing is, it's a little bit further out if you're wanting to explore places like Dumbo, but at the same time everywhere is so accessible by subway or taxi, so that shouldn't put you off. One thing that is a must thing to do in Brooklyn is to head on the Brooklyn Bridge, preferably at sunset or sunrise. We went up at sunset, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of our trip. It was so beautiful up there, and it was just amazing to be able to watch the sunset through the skyscrapers with Manhattan in the distance. And the Brooklyn Bridge is in the Dumbo area of Brooklyn, which stands for down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass, and I really recommend you coming here. We actually spent the evening here and then a full day there the next day, just because there's so much to do. One thing that you definitely need to do is grab an ice cream from the Brooklyn Ice Cream Factory, then go outside and sit and eat it with the most incredible views of the city. We sat here for ages, just people watching and watching the sun go down. There was live music playing. It was just generally a really chilled out vibe, and we just really loved it. But there is so much to do in Dumbo. There's loads of independent shops and restaurants. There's loads of places to walk about and see, loads of street art as well, and it's just a really cool place to hang out, so you definitely have to do it. You don't have to stay in Brooklyn. You can walk over the Brooklyn Bridge from Manhattan, but I definitely recommend coming to Dumbo. One thing that the kids really liked is in this area there is a place where people have put a load of padlocks where you can read the messages, and they also liked to pick out their favourite padlock as well, and they just loved sitting there and looking around and exploring and looking at all the padlocks. We actually really liked just sitting there and watching the city lights turn on before us. It was just a really cool place, and we ended up staying really late. Then the next day we came back just because there was so much to do. There's a little beach area where you can skim stones. There's also some seating where you can all sit down and just grab a drink and just generally watch the city from across the Hudson River. And there was loads of people watching the sunset here as well the night before. Also, one thing that we absolutely loved about Dumbo, and that was on one of my must-see lists, is to go to Jane's Carousel. Jane's Carousel is a really old carousel that has been preserved, and it's now in a glass box to protect it from the crazy New York weather. It's actually pretty reasonable to ride the carousel. I thought it was going to be quite expensive, but it's no more than like your average fairground ride, and the kids absolutely loved going on it. It was really good fun, and you're never going to go on a carousel with as beautiful view as this one, with all of New York and Manhattan sort of in front of you. So I definitely recommend a visit to Jane's Carousel if you are coming to Brooklyn. Another place is a must-do is Giuliana's Pizza. I had heard loads about Giuliana's before we travelled, and I really wanted to go and see it because they claim to have the best pizzas in the whole of New York. It might even be in the whole of America. They definitely didn't disappoint, but you need to get there early because there's always massive queues. One thing that we absolutely loved about Dumbo and Brooklyn is walking down the piers. They've made it into a really cool like urban area with lots of greenery, and in each pier there is something different to do. So for example, in some of them there are big open basketball courts you can hire, or football pitches. All the while you're walking, there's incredible views of the city, and there's also loads of playgrounds dotted about as well. So we just spent pretty much the entire afternoon just walking around, seeing all the different playgrounds. Our favourite was actually Pier 6, where there was an incredible concrete slide, which was actually really fun, and there was all sorts of different things like little swing parks. That was an area just dedicated to swings, and there was all sorts of fun stuff. So all you need to do is just head down and walk down and experience each pier as you walk. But I would definitely recommend doing this with kids just because it's a nice way of just having a chilled out afternoon, especially if you've had a busy few days beforehand. Another thing I massively recommend doing in Brooklyn is just checking out all the incredible street art. We love to look at street art, and Williamsburg has got some great ones as well. We spent the morning walking around and just checking out all the colourful murals, and it's a really good thing to do. While you're in Williamsburg, which is a really cool hip area, you have to go to Sweet Chick, which specialises in chicken and waffles. It's absolutely delicious, but again, get there early because it gets so busy. I had the chicken and waffles and it was incredible, and John had like a fruit waffle which was also really yummy.
Nice girls?
While you're in Williamsburg as well, you should check out one of the playgrounds. It's just an inner city playground, but it's really good fun with lots of sprinklers, and I find that the best thing to do with kids is just to have a little bit of downtime. So our time in Brooklyn was generally spent just playing around in parks and having some relaxing times. While we were there as well, there was a pop-up art installation called Dream Machine. I don't know when you're going to be going to Brooklyn, but if you go, you definitely need to check out Dream Machine. It's like a weird, crazy art installation that's really Instagrammable. In fact, I think that's probably what it was set up for, with loads of different bubble machines. Like, it's supposed to be what you would find in your dreams, and it's really surreal. The kids were a bit like, what, before I said we were going, and they ended up having so much fun. There's just like loads of random things. There was a laundrette with a place where you could get candy floss, and I took so many different pictures. There was all sorts of glittery mirrors and lights, and it was just generally really, really strange. We also loved the swimming pool ball pool, and I definitely recommend a trip to Dream Machine if it's still there. It's just really good fun, a bit crazy, but I always like to do tourist things and then things that aren't so touristy as well, and we all really loved Dream Machine. There was this really cool light up corridor which the kids loved, and then there was like a light up jungle as well, which was really good fun. It was just something a little bit random and a little bit fun to do on our last day, but it is only temporary, so I would check out if it's still there if you're planning to go to Brooklyn. And that is it. That is my guide to Brooklyn. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Here we are, heading off to the airport after a really amazing holiday. So that is it. I really hope that you enjoyed my Brooklyn travel guide with kids. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!